Assalamualaikum everyone. Thank you for having me here. In today's topic in Systems Dialogue series, I will be presenting my thoughts based on my experience of working with digitally enabled enterprises. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities that exist? What is an enterprise and how does it evolve in today's times? कोई भी enterprise ले लें, let's say example of a bank. Bank सबके लिए आसान है. You can relate to it. We're all using banking services. So what bank does is सबसे पहले अगर आप किसी भी बैंक में हैं तो इनका एक core banking का system implement होता है, which is called CB. इसमें आपकी accounts management हो रही होती है, limits management हो रही है, transactions manage हो रही होती है. That's the core that you always want to automate in any organization. If you're talking about a healthcare institute such as a hospital, वहाँ पे patient medical system सबसे पहले implement होता है because that's your core, that's your customer information that you're putting into your system. That is what you want to automate. What happens then is फिर आपके इस core के around satellite systems आना शुरू हो जाते हैं. These are all satellite systems, which means if it is a bank, then you have an internet banking web system, your web application. You have a mobile banking app. Mobile app आपकी आ जाती है यहाँ पे, right? Then you have a CRM maybe. आपको एक complaint management system आना शुरू हो जाता है. Right? So ये सारे core के around ये सारे satellite systems grow होना शुरू हो जाते हैं हमारे. Now what happens is some of these systems are obviously directly integrated with the core. Some systems are indirectly integrated with the core, right? And now the organization starts becoming complex. When there is one system, it's very easy to maintain. We all understand it. We all agree to that, right? When you have multiple systems that are growing around the core, then the information exchange between these systems, the efficiency to operate these systems becomes a tricky task. And then you have all those functions of operational excellence, CI/CD आजकल के ज़माने में आ गए, just to create a lot of left shift to the business. Then you have center of excellence that are emerging. Now all of this is within the premise of a bank. We have a new phenomenon. Some of these systems talks to external system, which is your third-party systems, right? आपके fintechs आ गए, for example, एक बैंक एक fintech के साथ integrate करके अपनी offerings को extend कर रहा है. I remember we did a project with one of the banks, जिसने telco के साथ अपनी APIs को expose किया, and telco was selling the services of the bank. We are also working as part of systems innovation lab. We're working on one of our own project, जहाँ पे अपनी lending को हम improve करेंगे. So there will be a marketplace for lending as well, right? So what will happen is if you are an end user and if you want a loan, you'll come to that marketplace, you'll select your fintech, you'll select your bank, you'll select what services that you need, what kind of loan you need, and all of this is now interconnected. And you don't even understand कि पीछे किस बैंक से मेरी funding हो रही है, मेरी loan, मुझे lending मिल रही है. But that is what fintech is taking care of. So think of it as an example of let's say Kareem के example. Kareem के driver, he wants a new car so that he can grow his business and increase his spending. And he does not have enough money. What he does is he goes to the Kareem app, he applies for the loan. Now Kareem is integrated with one of the banks at the back end, right? And then you have certain plans around that. Your credit management is being done, credit worthiness is being checked, and then the loan is eventually granted in, let's say, 5 minutes in an ideal scenario where all the KYC has already been done. So what happened was, bank was able to sell services by externalizing its customer user experience to a fintech world. So you have this phenomenon of all these satellite systems with the extension of core talking to the third-party systems, which is your fintech world. Now there's another emergence, there's another velocity factor for all these enterprises, the emergence of cloud, right? You all know there is a cloud. So there are systems that exist in the cloud as well. So we have software as a service systems, right? आपको social data चाहिए. आप एक bank है. You want to make a decision on credit worthiness of a particular user. By the way, you all understand what is credit worthiness, right? I'll explain it to you. What happens is when you apply for a loan, bank has to grant a certain limit to you, right? वो limit कैसे identify करता है? जी SN का for example, bank 1 million का loan दे रहा है, but मुझे वो 2 million का दे रहा है, या जो आपको वो 3 million का दे रहा है. So how does bank identify that? It's based on your credit worthiness. Some data points that are collected that defines कि आप कितना जल्दी पैसे वापस कर दें. Because पैसा देना बैंक के लिए problem नहीं है. It's the recovery, it's the collection that is problem for all the banks, right? So that credit worthiness data points can come from everywhere. Your spending habits, आप अपने बिजली के बिल, अपने utilities के बिल कितना time पे pay करें. That shows your responsibilities and you always pay your loan amounts, right? Similarly, there's a social behavior around it, right? If you're interacting with the social platform, we're all leaving digital footprints everywhere we go, right? हम शायद फैमिली से ज़्यादा बात करते हैं अपने फोन कम बात करते हैं फोन ज़्यादा यूज़ कर रहे हैं we're driving while we are eating while we're talking to somebody we're always leaving a digital footprint every time, right? So if we can somehow get and tap that particular social data वो आपके different platforms exist करते हैं that can also help a bank to make a decision on your credit worthiness. So that's just one of the examples. Similarly, you have weather data that is available as a service. You have an economic overlay data that is available. For example, economic overlay example है कि जी I'm from Karachi, so Karachi में load shedding बहुत areas में होती है, and that's a planned load shedding because there are line losses in those particular areas, which means the people not paying the bills in those particular areas, which means there is bijli ki chori in some of the areas that impacts your credit worthiness. So one of the economic overlay factors, if you're living in one of those areas, there are higher chances कि आप शायद पैसे नहीं देते होगे बिजली का बिल नहीं देते because that also impacts your credit worthiness. Now, how is bank getting this information? Through all the social, economic overlays information, all the information that is available on the cloud. So the cloud has impacted our enterprises in a much larger way than we can imagine. और हमें पता भी नहीं होता पीछे से हम जो digital footprint छोड़ रहे हैं that somehow relates and correlates to our digital activity on all these platforms that we interact with. I'll give you an example. We did a project for one of the retailers in US, and what we did was the use case was that when I was shopping in one of their stores, and I was done with my card and I was checking out, my receipt was being printed after I made the payment. Now, based on what I've ordered today, and based on my propensity, based on the weather conditions, it will generate a personalized coupon on my probable next buy, which could be like, for instance, if I bought a coat, then I'll probably buying warm socks or shawl in next 5 days. So it'll create a personalized coupon for you so that your behavior is more curated towards that particular buying and purchasing in future. How did it know what I'm supposed to buy? It sort of correlated my spending habits, my propensity to buy, my age group, my demographics, the weather information. All of that was sort of correlated to create that particular customized coupon for me. So that is how our customer behaviors are impacting. And unless the enterprise is super ready to utilize all this information, it can't really compete in a digital world. So that's how in the overall enterprise architecture, enterprise looks like in today's world. I'll stop here for a second and see if there are questions on what we've discussed so far. Any thought, any wild, crazy thought that comes to your mind? Anyone like to contribute?
I had something in my mind, but for this, giving an example of third-party integrations, I was concerned about the data protection and laws. We are like following those rules and we are procedures because we have a GDPR in Europe and UK, where we have to be very careful about the general data protection. So, what about your example in board there? Do they have any kind of policies?
Absolutely. And I'll ask you to hold that, but request you to hold that thought because what we are going to discuss next, we talked about what an enterprise looks like and what are the challenges and factors impacting the progression of an enterprise. Now we'll talk about what digital means to be enterprise, and that is what will answer your particular question. Right? So I'll just take that. So we've talked about enterprise. Now let's dissect into what is digital. Any preconceived notion of what is digital? बताइए किसी की भी कोई भी imagination कि this is digital.
Anything जिसकी existence physical state में ना हो, एक computerized या binary सब कहते हैं binary code में computer के language में digital चीज़.
So it's digital. Sorry. This world is not digital. Is this what you're saying?
Sorry.
We are here right now, physically present, right? Are we digital or are we analog?
We are not.
We're not digital.
Digital comes from word digit.
Right.
Digit refers to 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. And this refers to binary language which our computers basically use. So,
what are the core elements? Who uses the digital?
We use the digital.
And we are digital or are
we are not digital.
We're not digital.
we are in physical presence now. So I think that you can touch and feel in very low term is basically physical, and the thing which you can.
So transcending from analog to virtual maybe is that.
So there should be a method through which you're transcending.
Yeah.
So gentleman said that we are the ones that are using digital, and you said there is a method through which we do that. So it's called a process. Anyone else? So we have people who are using a certain process to benefit from the digital. Right? How does digital work? What makes it work? Technology. Right? Technology makes it work. So people, process, technology. So there is a person, Ahmed, who uses a certain process. The process he downloads an Instagram app and creates his own profile. Instagram app is provided by technology, but is he responsibly using the technology? Is he being responsible in the digital world? That's the question. And that's where our fourth pillar comes, which is governance. And that answers your question that these are the four pillars of digital world, right? People, process, technology, and governance. And governance is where you employ those controls of data security, monitoring, proactive monitoring, of certain controls established so that the digital is not being used irresponsibly. So we're living in a responsible digital world. Because it's about digital, your identity is different from your physical identities, right? So you have to be very responsible in terms of creating. There was a concept of one ID creation, physical जो identity दुनिया में हम जैसे होते हैं उसको हम digital में कैसे हो सकते हैं? There's a complete research, you guys can go and look at it on the internet. There's a lot of research papers on this particular topic. कि हम जैसे हमारी credibility दुनिया में है physical world में, how can we create correlate the same credibility in the digital world? अगर मैं Instagram या मैं Facebook पे या LinkedIn पे कोई चीज़ recommend कर रहा हूँ, why would people trust me if I'm only being digital, right? But अगर मैं physically किसी को बोल रहा हूँ, तो would they trust me more? So if I'm physically present somewhere, do I have more? People will treat me differently. That's the question. If I'm digitally there, will people treat me differently? That's the question. So I think थोड़ी सी governance हमें इसमें employ करनी पड़ती है. Now, if we talk about having चारों aspects, so people, process, technology, and governance, and चारों aspects को हम थोड़ा सा briefly touch upon करें. Now, when we say digital enterprise, what is the importance of people in digital enterprise? लोग नहीं होंगे तो कौन काम करेगा, right? Actually, so this is the crux. We're developing technology for people consumption. People are your customers. People are your stockholders, shareholders, okay? And people are your employees. ये तीन लोग exist करते हैं digital enterprise में. Employees हैं हमारे shareholders हैं, right? और हमारे customers हैं. और इन तीनों की needs को हमें balance करना है with creating solutions. Talk about systems as a digital enterprise. You guys are sitting at the core. If the technology is not enabling you financially or आपकी progression or your career, then it means it's not a digital enterprise that you're looking for. So people, process, technology, इनके around processes होने चाहिए. We talked about this earlier. अगर आप 5 साल पहले चले जाएं, तो एक central IT का concept था. सारी चीजें वो central IT करेगी. बैंक में भी एक central IT department होता है. All projects will go to them. There are limited people, always choke for bandwidth, always choke for their livability. And they always end up creating long timelines which would not be acceptable to the business agility, right? Market is competitive, it's fierce out there. Everybody is bringing in new products, right? So अगर आपकी IT में इतनी agility नहीं होगी, इतनी scalable नहीं होगी कि वो business needs को पूरा कर सकें. There's always a tussle between IT and business. If you go into any enterprise, banks चले जाएं, telco चले जाएं. So what they did was they played a smart move. They created a digital department to divide, sort of address that shift that exists between IT and business. So there's a digital now. Digital became a third player in all this in enterprises. But that's a different debate. Processes. Earlier, our development processes used to be waterfall, right? Traditionally, on the waterfall पे काम किया. अब क्या हो गया? CI/CD पे जा रहे हैं, right? टेक्नोलॉजी की एग्जांपल ले लेते हैं. हमारी सारी डिप्लॉयमेंट्स किस पे होती थी? सर्वर्स पे होती थी, VMs पे होती थी, bare metals पे होती थी. Now we're moving towards containers, right? I'm sorry, containers will move there, containerized environments. All this shift is creating. Earlier, we used to use web services for our data exchanges. Now we are talking about APIs, right? So that's another shift. Infrastructure की आप बात करें, सारा कुछ on-premise होता था. Now we're talking cloud all the time. Right? Okay, everything is available. और इन सारी चीज़ों से हो क्या है? That the missing agility that was hampering our businesses to curate more offerings with the end user. Now they are provided with super fast platform. People enablement, businesses are being enabled. There's a concept of creating left shift in an organization. What left shift does is, जो काम IT कर रहा है उसमें से कितना काम business खुद से कर सकता है, so that business is less dependent on IT. So you see all those notions of low code, no code platforms coming in where business can easily go and create their own forms and deploy an application within minutes and it's up and running. Similarly, other platforms जहाँ पे आपके SaaS components are available in the cloud, you just have to plug in and you get it done. It's very seamless integration, drag and drop based integration. So you see all those patterns emerging in a digital enterprise just because we want to enable our businesses faster, to develop more services to the customer faster. It's a game of speed. Whoever gets there first will tap onto the advantage. It's a very stiff competition out there. We've talked about digital, we talked about enterprise. I'll take a pause here and see if there are further questions before we move on to the actual architecture. कोई thoughts अभी तक? Just want to understand कि क्या flow बना पा रहे हैं जिस तरह से enterprise से शुरू किया था हमने digital enterprise का. You see a logical progression to what we are discussing so far. And is there anything that you like to add, or कोई ऐसे element you feel कि digital में missing है, enterprise में missing है based on your experience? Doesn't have to be right or wrong. Just have to say it out if it's sitting in your mind. Right, so the final part of our talk today, where we are knitting digital into enterprise and then we are moving towards an architecture. What a digital enterprise looks like in terms of an architecture. और हम core technical capabilities की बात करेंगे, or what are the capabilities that should or must exist in an organization. उसकी maturity कितनी होगी, that is another factor that defines this, make another level है. कि अगर digitally enterprise or it's well architected, what is the maturity level of that particular digital enterprise? So that's a separate advanced topic that maybe we can cover in future series as well. So what are my velocity factors? Why do I need a digital enterprise? Right, that's my first question. इसको हमने डिटेल में एड्रेस किया, हमने देखा कि डिजिटल के पिलर्स क्या क्या होते हैं. If I'm an organization जो completely analog enterprise है and he wants to be digital, these are the four things that particular organization has to focus on. Right people, right roles, center of excellences, center for excellences आपको बनाने पड़ेंगे. Right people, सही governance structure लाना पड़ेगा. Processes आपके होने चाहिए, agile processes होनी चाहिए, right? Technology options आपके पास होने चाहिए, आपके पास cloud, on-prem, hybrid, ये सारी availabilities होनी चाहिए. Should have people who understand the technology as well. इसमें you can outsource, you can insource, you can work in a managed services model with some of the vendors as well. Governance is where we talked about data security. There's a constant watch on what technology is doing, what digital disruption is doing. We have to be responsible to the society. We have to be responsible to the climate. We have to be responsible to certain communities, minorities around the world. So a responsible digital enterprise is what we are looking for. अब हम आ जाते हैं जी, अच्छा ये हमने एक blueprint तैयार कर लिया. Let's talk about what an enterprise looks like. First of all, enterprise के velocity factors क्या होते हैं? What factors are pushing enterprises to have a digital face to it? Enterprises तो पहले भी काम कर रही थी, but वो सारे पीछे रह गए because उन्होंने अपने आप को digitally uplift नहीं. So the velocity factors are, we talked about social data, web, mobile. You have IoTs, you have third parties, right? These are all sources of data. जहाँ से आपके पास data explosion होगी. Anything else that you guys think of? इसके अलावा क्या sources हो सकते हैं? Okay. So then these are all velocity factors. जहाँ से आपका data push हो रहा है आपकी enterprise. Okay. Now you have a public cloud sitting in. Public cloud where you're accessing common services, for example, identity and access management, IAM services. You have security employed over here, so you have monitoring. You're using log analysis in some cases. You're using database as a service in some cases, right? You're using platform as a service in some cases. You're using application as a service in some cases. That's your public cloud, readily available services, and you just have to, the data comes through there and then it lands into your private cloud. Now this private cloud could be on-premise as well. It doesn't have to be actually on the cloud. So private cloud means it could be in your data center, sitting in a data center with all the cloud capabilities is now environments could spin off. There's like a similar agility that you get into the cloud. Everything is available as a service. So when you're through, the data comes here and lands in your enterprise, then maybe you have an API management or API gateway through which that's sitting at the edge of your enterprise, आपकी जो enterprise की edge है, उस पे बैठा हुआ है. यहाँ से सारा data आ रहा है आपके पास, यहाँ पे आप policies enforce कर रहे हैं, you're ensuring that it's the right person who's making the call to my accessing my services in an organization. Then you have a microservices plane. अच्छा कोई भी term आप लोगों को कहीं भी समझ नहीं आती, please stop me and ask what is this, right? Otherwise, आप फिर वहीं पे फंस जाएंगे, you won't be able to move forward. We're going to move very quicker from now here onwards. A lot of different terminologies that you guys are going to see in this particular chart. So you'll see microservices plane. You'll see enterprise
What's
application.
microservices?
Microservices are a small set of services. They're self-contained. जिसमें आपके पास डेटा की स्टेट भी मेंटेन होती है, इसमें सिक्योरिटी भी होती है. It's self-governing application. It's very agile and scalable. It's cloud native. It sits in the cloud. It can replicate itself. It can scale itself. You don't have to worry about all the different nuances that you associate with a regular application. You selectively scale it as well. So that's a microservice. So the enterprise application integration, that is your traditional enterprise application platform, such as ESBs आपकी traditional world में होती थी. SOA platform का आपने नाम सुना होगा, RMIs आपने सुना होंगे और पीछे चले गए, remote method identifications. और यहाँ पे custom enterprise application integration भी हो सकती है. Then you have your business process management orchestration here. This is where your entire end-to-end process works. For example, if you are going to the bank, let's go take an example of a bank. When you apply for a loan or you open your account, there's an account opening process that is followed. आपकी information वो मांगते हैं, you go to a branch, you fill up a form or you fill up a form online and then they ask for certain information, you upload that particular information. Digital onboarding start over here, so they do a liveliness check, they verify information from Nadra, and then eventually once your basic KYC is done, your account is preliminarily created. Then what happens is it goes to one certain other departments, risk assesses, is the credit limit kitni deni. If you apply for a credit card, they'll determine a limit based on your salary information, based on your other loans, based on your account history with some of the other banks. All of this information is used. So internally within the bank, it moves across different departments. So it's a complete workflow that's involved. It goes from one step to another step until it ends. So this certain capability should exist in a digital enterprise as well. Now from BPM, you can also have decision management, where you have your different business rules that are defined. So for example, आज tax rate क्या होगा? And business wants this agility. So similarly, आज मैंने different अपने limit management का criteria change करना. I can just simply come here to this platform and I can change those parameters, and those rules will be changed automatically into the production without any deployment, without any downtime. And then you also have your enterprise content management. Traditionally, we've been using SharePoints of the world, for managing your content, because it's not just data; it's a lot of content that is also coming in when you're applying for a loan or you're opening a bank account. The images, unstructured data that is coming in. So you want to make sure that you manage and capture the data, because a lot of information is sitting inside that particular content. Once all of this is done, then you have your enterprise networks, right? जिसमें आपके core systems हैं, इसमें आपका डेटा स्टोरेज है, the traditional approach है यहाँ पे आपके core systems बैठे हुए हैं, then all of this information is orchestrated with the enterprise services and systems. Okay. So what is happening? If you carefully see, data is flowing, right? A lot of data coming from a lot of different sources coming into these organizations, enterprises which are digitally enabled, and they're not missing out on any piece of information. And that answers our maturity question. How much of data that is coming into your organization via digital channels or through physical channels, how much that information is not being used for your prescriptive decision making, from your analytic decision making? That is the question, and that defines the maturity of digital enterprise. And once you've decided that and SN is sitting, so he understands it a lot, all of this data, the data occurs in two ways. One is in motion, the other one is at rest. So at rest is sitting in your file system, in your databases, that is data at rest. Data in motion is coming and flowing in through the APIs. Traditionally, we've focused on at rest data, इसको हम सारा ETLs के through data warehouses में लेके चले जाते हैं. We build our AI routines, NLP routines on it, and then we start predicting based on the quality of data. But data in motion is also equally important. Unless you have a digital enterprise architecture, you won't be able to tap onto this particular piece of data, which is more real, which is more real time, which is more closer to what customer is thinking. So that is why the importance of data in motion is equal, if not less than data at rest. उसके बाद ये data flow करता है आप अपनी ETLs के through या different virtualization tools के through आप इसको data warehouses में लेके जाते हैं. Data warehouses से आप इसको अपनी reporting या analytics application में executive decision making के लिए use करना शुरू करते हैं. And then all of this decision making flows into your enterprise once again. So for example, ये सारा डेटा जो आ रहा है कस्टमर हैबिट्स का, अगर ये एक CRM के अंदर, कस्टमर रिलेशनशिप मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम के अंदर मेरे जो सेल्स के लोग हैं उनके पास ये सारी लीड्स जा रही हैं कि दिस पर्सन इज अप्लाइड फॉर अ लोन एंड देयर इज अ लॉट propensity that he may default because giving his credit history and other data points that we have within the bank, then you may want to negotiate the loan terms with this particular person, or maybe go towards the write-off or start the delinquency process with him. Right? So all of this caters to one particular flag. So, you know, what Google did, what Google sells the data, right? User-generated data is still sell. So the point that the gentleman raised was, you have a lot of data, why don't you monetize it and sell it to your fintechs and other parts of the world, right? Because if I'm a retailer, I know a lot of demographics information. कि जी इस इलाके के लोग, लाहौर के सेक्टर DHFA 6 के लोग एक certain age bracket में कौन सी products किस time of the year पे सबसे ज़्यादा order करते हैं. That's a very important critical data for my product management, product planning perspective. मैंने क्या offers देनी है, मैंने किस तरह से, मैंने अपनी inventory optimization कैसे करनी है. So DHFA 6 में उससे वो inventory को move करूँगा जो वहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा sell हो. Right? Otherwise, obviously moving inventory is a lot of cost, so there's an element of cost optimization as well. Right? So thank you for that particular point. Anyone else would like to add? Yes.
This monetizing concept has been around for a while now. आपने जिक्र किया कि नादरा से डेटा लेते हैं, तो नादरा has monetized their services, और banks भी, telcos भी उनसे information API calls के through ले रहे हैं, and they charge per call depending on how much information is needed. And then अभी जैसे हम OneLink की बात कर रहे थे, OneLink अपना data warehouse implement करने जा रहा है, and the next phase is कि वो भी monetization की तरफ जा रहे हैं कि once we know what we have and we've done the right KPI calculations on top of that data, तो फिर हम वो sell करेंगे. So this is something that is happening for a while now, and we are sort of just matching the pace the market need has.
That is an interesting thought, because generally what happens is whenever you're doing a BI project or a data warehouse project, you always start with the data at rest. And then you generally ignore that how to assemble the data that is flowing in the organization. How the data got to me, that is also an important question to answer, right? So, and then again, data warehouses traditionally are suffering from the same centralized approach that probably these platforms suffered in last maybe 5 or 6 years, because these were centralized, right? Now, when we're talking about a data warehouse, we're traditionally saying, we're typically saying that centralize your data. Let's put all the data together, let's marshal it, let's transform it, then apply routines on top of it, and then create intelligence out of it. This is what we're saying, right? Now, that approach has also a flaw in it, because whenever you're centralizing something, you're stepping upon the business agility. So now the concept of data meshes are coming in, where business completely owns their own data warehouse, expose it as an API to the rest of the enterprise. Those are interesting concepts that are emerging.
So what's the other way around than
Sorry?
centralization? What's the other way around rather than doing centralization?
I think decentralized.
Yes, the integrations.
So the idea is not about implementing a technology. The idea is who owns the technology, right? And how you can quickly deliver that particular technology. So if you have more people, you can do it faster. That's typical maths, right? So what we are saying is enable businesses so that they can do this, which centralized IT is doing today. So we want to enable businesses, we want to make it fast, smarter. It is interesting terminology that in few years, there won't be any enterprise in the world other than a software enterprise. So bank would be a software company who does banking. And a hospital would be a software company that does healthcare. So all these notions are going to change the way technology is impacting, and the emergence of, now the metaverse is coming. It's very exciting, right? So you have those digital footprint that have already been established, and now you're creating a completely augmented reality world where your digital identities would exist. And then the question of governance becomes very pertinent, right? How are we going to be responsible in such metaverses of the world? Any further questions?
Even now we have seen there is a website where you have the consultants like hospital consultants, they're available online, and you can get consultancy online over the
Health tech is what.
especially during
State Bank is launching digital banking.
So what is you think of a bank which has no bank?
Branchless bank.
Yeah, so we worked with one of the banks in Germany, and that bank has a total of 6 employees, 6 staff bank, running an entire bank, all digital, everything digital. They had 0 branches in Germany. So that is how the world is being impacted with the technology.
दूसरा डेटा में पॉलिसी की है, it's not mandatory कि आप centralized maintain करें. It's actually about the classification of data कि कौन सा data किसने रखना है. For example, there is one concept of peak-up. शायद आप लोगों ने सुना. Most of the banks are using. What they did actually, they start collecting data from different brands कि यहाँ पे ये ऑफर चल रही है, यहाँ पे ये ऑफर चल रही है, ये कार्ड पे ये ऑफर है. उन्होंने अपनी एक ऐप लॉन्च कर दी. उस ऐप को देख के बंदे को पता चलता था कि मैं अगर फॉर एग्जांपल आई एम हियर और मेरे पास स्टैंडर्ड चार्टर्ड का कार्ड है, तो मुझे कौन से रेस्टोरेंट पे डिस्काउंट मिलेगा.
Yeah, that concept is called aggregation.
Yes, so aggregation and then monetization. अब बैंक्स ने क्या किया कि बैंक ने वही डेटा उनको अपने साथ इंटीग्रेट करना शुरू कर दिया. So data and the integration. So these are the 2 main pillars के आपने किसी भी डिजिटल को enable करना है.
Exactly, and data is like the black hole of today's world. So you guys understand that it's not.
Don't you think you are putting yourself in more risk? जब हम ये AP gateway की इसमें बात करते हैं तो it's a single point of failure.
नहीं, it's not.
सारा डेटा वो लेकर आते हैं through AP gateway अंदर private cloud में लेके जा रहे हैं. तो if there is any issue in that layer,
When you say single point of failure, what do you mean? State server पे बैठ जाएगा तो फिर संबंध हो जाएगा, इसका what you saying?
I mean like most of the implementation जिस तरह मैंने देखी है अपने clients पे.
इमरान वो भी सेशन के लिए है.
अपना उसमें कह रहे हैं load balancing level होता है, लेकिन उसका TR इस तरह की approach mostly.
That's why I said that it has to be in the public cloud, so you have that 100% peace of mind that this is not going to go down for all the season. And then you build your, retry mechanisms. You resort to those asynchronous messaging. One of the pieces that I missed is, you have streaming messaging platform as well. So you may have a Kafka sitting somewhere in between. So that means a guaranteed delivery. Even if your inbound organization is down for some reason, you have Kafka sitting who's capturing all those messages. So you have a guaranteed delivery mechanism in place as well.
दूसरा विशाल ये चीज़ कब होती है हमें प्रोसेस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी. कि आप कैसे उसको प्रोसेस को अडॉप्ट करते हो, कौन सी टेक्नोलॉजी यूज करते हो, एंड हाउ डू यू अडॉप्ट दैट सब टेक्नोलॉजी। ईपी गेटवे एक नहीं होता, जब वो आर्किटेक्चर में आप जाएंगे तो फिर एक नहीं रहेगा, दैट यू हैव टू अडॉप्ट के आपने किस तरह से उसको करना है।
I think any जी please.
सर मैं डिफरेंस फाइंड आउट करना चाह रहा हूँ डिजिटल एंटरप्राइज आर्किटेक्चर और डिजिटल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन। लेट्स सपोज एक फैक्ट्री है जहाँ पर मैनुअल प्रोसेसेस वगैरह से ओल्ड they adopt some Google products, some Oracle, some SAP software they implemented into this factory and everything computerized. Is this digital transformation or just they have adopted technology and the next step is digital transformation?
Again, this is the end goal. Digital enterprise is the end goal. How do you get there is the digital transformation. The journey is transformation, and that is the end state where you want to be. And now this end state you can never achieve in theory. It will always evolve. It will keep on evolving. So you do it iteratively. You automate your core first. Your journey to digital transformation starts since the day you have embraced the concept of digital. You understand these 4 pillars of digital in your organization, right? Now it could be, your digital could be, आज आप एक काम फाइलों के थ्रू रजिस्टर्स में लिख के कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, अब आपने वो एक्सेल पे करना शुरू किया, that is also digital. You're reducing the footprint, you're increasing business sensitivity, you're reducing the time to market. That has impact on the overall functioning of the organization. So transformation is the journey, it's a never-ending journey. Keep on evolving itself again and again and again. So you reach to a certain point, you take a pause, you assess your organization, you find out what my gaps are, you create a roadmap for next 2 years, and then you start again. So you keep on evolving. So anyway, thank you very much, guys. I believe that this would have given some food for thought.